I'm Kiyan.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast with living stones. Because this week we watched The Stones of Blood.
Written by David Fisher.
Directed by Daryl Blake.
And aired in October and November of 1978.
That intro might have been a bit obvious, but oh well. We normally choose kind of obscure intros that relate to the serial, and this week we just went for something really obvious. Maybe it was because this serial just was bad and didn't have a lot to offer.
Right, bad serial, bad episode of
What?
Us. No, I don't know.
There's no correlation there. In fact, I think we've determined there's an anti-correlation there. Although maybe this will be the first to correlate. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
Kind of like the characters in this serial because the dialogue was so poorly written. No, I don't know.
Look, this whole serial was just...
Terrible?
Yeah.
Awful? Unenjoyable? Are those the words you're looking for?
I wouldn't say it was the worst we've seen, but it was bad. Like, just straight up bad.
Maybe we should explain why it was bad.
No,
just end it right now. It was bad. Don't even watch it.
No. So it begins with the Doctor and Romana. I almost said Leela. The Doctor and Romana running around in the TARDIS, trying to put the puzzle together.
Yeah, Romana, I guess I'll just say now, is getting pretty tiresome and annoying. And her act.
Are you quoting Nathan?
No.
Okay.
Did I?
No, Nathan says tiresome a lot on Flight Through Entirety.
Huh.
Flight Through Tiresome. I guess I can sort of agree with that. I suppose we'll talk more about her at the end of the serial when we can draw in plot points from the serial into our discussion.
But yeah, she's talking about they're talking about the key to time. They're putting the two pieces together.
Mm-hmm. And the Doctor doesn't know how to put them together, but Romana does.
That joke is actually getting pretty old. You know, Doctor thinks he knows how to do something, and then Romana makes a snarky comment, and yeah, we've seen that, I think, at the beginning of all three serials this season so far. Seems to be the running gag here.
Yeah. I wonder how long we're going to draw it out for. It's when David Fisher writes next week's serial too, probably another week at least. So the Doctor plugs in the little scanner thing and reveals that the key to time is on Earth. The Doctor's all excited because he loves Earth. And Romana's like, oh, it's your favorite planet. And he's like, how did you know that? She's like, everybody knows that.
It's no secret. Yeah, so when I found out that, or when they revealed that the next piece was on Earth, I was like, great, Earth. Another boring Earth serial. And I was right.
Not all Earth serials have to be bad.
No, but I didn't think they'd go for a piece of the key to time being set on Earth. I mean, how much stuff happens on Earth? Earth is like the central planet to everything bad going on.
I mean, yeah, story-wise it doesn't make sense, but budget-wise it makes a lot of sense because it's a lot cheaper to just set things on Earth and just be like, see, look, it's our garden. This is actually Earth, you know?
Also, what made sense budget-wise was the fact that they filmed a lot of this serial at dusk with no lighting at all.
So Doctor and Romana land on Earth, and they're running out of the time scanner thing. And, man, you know, this serial kind of showed why maybe this scanner thing wasn't such a good idea for the key to time, because now for 2 weeks in a row they've had to contrive some reason why the scanner doesn't exactly work so that they can get drawn into some subplot. Instead of doing something like the first serial this season where the scanner showed them the item, but then they had to go through the whole plot to get the item. Instead, in Pirate Planet, this one, it was the scanner doesn't work. We have to figure out why the scanner's not working.
Or that the item is just something really weird, like a whole planet. I mean, that one was okay because it was
the first time the scanner didn't really work because it was showing readings everywhere. But then it happens again in this serial, and then you find out why later, and you're just like, wow. Okay, wow.
But anyway, there's some druids sacrificing some people at Stonehenge. I don't know if it's like the Stonehenge, probably not.
No, it's just
but it's
Stonehenge.
Yeah. I'm sure there are plenty of those things littered all about.
I mean, there's a wooden one, you know, near Stonehenge. It's called Woodhenge, unsurprisingly. So when the Doctor and Romana show up, the sacrifice quickly disperses for obvious reasons. And then they run into these two people, Vivian, Faye, and... Shoot, what was the
Generic
archaeologist?
old lady with terrible acting, number whatever.
Amelia Rumford. Hey, I actually liked her as a character.
Well, you have to admit, her acting wasn't...
No, it wasn't amazing.
Snuff.
But her scenes with the Doctor later on were pretty fun. I'm trying to look for diamonds in the rough here.
Well, don't find coal and call it I don't know.
But you're gonna say don't go chasing waterfalls for some reason.
Don't go chasing waterfalls?
You know, like
don't go chasing rainbows?
Oh, well, I was thinking of the song. Don't go chasing... Never mind. Okay. We'll just move on.
Okay.
So, Amelia and Vivian, and they're doing some sort of archaeological survey of the area. And Romana has, for some brilliant reason, decided to wear heels for the one and only time so far.
Right. We mentioned in the first serial of this season how we thought Romana's costumes would get more and more down to earth. No pun intended. As the season went on, and we were right. We were absolutely right about that, unfortunately.
But the heels were a poor choice.
Yeah, they were.
Because they actually become a key plot point now, because the Doctor's like, well, I'm going to go down to the Covent and see stuff. Romana, you stay here because it's like 2 miles away, and walking 2 miles in your heels is probably not a good idea. And then he whispers, oh yeah, keep an eye on Amelia and Vivian. They seem kind of shady.
Yeah. The Covent? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the Covent. Yeah.
It's where the druids hang out.
I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. They mentioned that there are some druids in the area who like to perform blood sacrifices, you know.
Mm-hmm. Just casually. just
maybe
go
once a week, every Sunday, you know.
Sunday brunch and then sacrifice. Amelia drops some all men are pigs lines. Just kind of smacking. She? Yeah. She goes, those men. He'll probably not come back for you. He's probably just leaving you here. Romana's like, right, yeah, sure, okay. Anyway, the Doctor gets to the Covent and meets DeVries, who owns the building that they're based out of, I guess. He's kind of the landlord. And he tells the Doctor about some paintings on the wall. Some absolutely thrilling dialogue about paintings on the wall.
And there are 3 that are obviously missing, and it's pretty obvious that he wants to cover up why they're missing, because he makes up some excuse that I don't remember, but...
Probably to throw away for restoration.
I don't know why he didn't just rearrange the paintings in a way that makes it less obvious that 3 of them are missing.
Well, when you later find out why the 3 paintings are missing, it begs the question why he only took them off the wall recently. You know, he only took them off recently, which is evidenced by the fact that you can see the outline of where the paintings used to hang on the wall. And you wonder, well, why now?
Well, I mean, that could indicate that, you know, there's dust on the wall, but not where the 3 paintings... Oh, yeah, I guess that would make it recent. But
yeah. Anyway,
maybe his religion is gaining more popularity, and he's just like, better take these down. I mean, it's... When you first hear that he took them down, you're like, I wonder if those 3 people... Because he mentions the 3 people in the painting, 3 ladies, royalty, I guess. One of them was from Brazil. You think, I wonder if they're all the same person, and that's why he took them down. And yeah, that's actually the reason. So,
I didn't wonder that at all. I thought it was just a throwaway plot point. Then when they brought it back later, I was like, oh great, they're bringing this plot point back.
Pretty much was throwaway. They brought it back, and I mean, Vivian was already pretty suspicious at that point.
For a lot of reasons. So DeVries reveals that he's not actually a druid, but he studies the druidic folklore. But the druids use his house because it's big and it happens to be out in the middle of nowhere where no one's going to come and bother them, so...
Inconveniently 2 miles away from the Stonehenge.
That too. So the Doctor and him actually talk for a while and get nothing productive done.
No, it's pretty much the entirety of episode 1.
Except DeVries mentions, oh yeah, always the raven or the crow, which comes back later like 4 times.
Right, they mentioned their god, which is a raven/crow god that I forget what it's called, the Kaliak or something.
Something like that, but he says raven or crow, which, by the way, are 2 completely different birds.
Get it right.
But the Doctor kind of wanders around for a bit, and Amelia and Vivian are going back to the cottage because it's dusk now, and
they haven't set up any lights to film by.
Nope. So they're like, well, we'll just go back to the cottage then. See you later, Romana. She's like, yeah, I'm just going to wait for the Doctor. And then she sees, apparently, the Doctor, but we don't actually see the Doctor for some reason. And this plot point is actually only briefly mentioned later and then just never brought up again.
Well, it's how they deduce that whoever it is that's behind everything is using the key to time, but that's, like, mentioned once. But anyway, she gets pushed down a cliff by who she thinks is the Doctor. And, I don't know, her acting was fairly terrible while she was yelling for help. It's pretty much just, help me, I'm falling. Help. And then the angle that you get at first, which is, looking down at her holding onto the cliff, it looks, fairly scary. Looks like she can't really climb up. It looks pretty deep, and looks like she's about to fall. Then you get a shot, from the side or whatever, and you see that she's literally just standing on a little outcropping. It looks like she can just climb up.
But there are a lot of questionable decisions made in this serial, one of them being that. But yeah, she kind of just stands there for a while, and then the Doctor shows up and she's like, the Doctor, what are you doing? You pushed me off the cliff. And that's my Romana interpretation.
That's the end of episode 1 and the beginning of episode 2, when the Doctor actually shows up and helps her up, and he's like, I didn't push you off. It must have been someone using the key to time to transform into me.
Yeah, okay, so when they brought this up, I thought there was going to be this cool subplot about, like, a mad scientist who was using the key to time to, like, manipulate events in local society, but no, it's nothing as cool as that.
I thought it was just DeVries, whatever his name was. But no, it wasn't him either. He actually dies pretty soon without doing much important at all.
Yeah, the Doctor helps Romana up with his scarf. Just wanted to point that out. The scarf is actually useful for something for once.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but it looked like it was getting in the way a lot in this serial in particular.
Yeah, because I think before this season, I could be mistaken, they sewed together what remained of Tom Baker's scarf because they had to keep cutting it shorter because pieces kept getting ruined. And then
because it drags on the ground.
And then they attached it to a duplicate of the scarf that they made for the stuntman, so now his scarf is like 14 or 15 feet long now.
When do they season? When do they season it? No. When do they
pour some oregano on there?
When do they shorten it? His final season, I think.
No, the final season is when they make it like twice as long.
Oh, I thought they shortened it.
No, the final season they completely change his costume to make it more uniform, and they make the scarf like twice as long.
Huh. Okay then.
There you go. Glad I could clear that up. So Romana and the Doctor are like, well, so now what? So we should mention that, this time scanner thing is not working. It's kind of just going beep, beep, beep all over the place in Stonehenge, and they can't figure out why, because none of the things in the Stonehenge are the key to time.
Nope.
So they're like, well, it's got to be here somewhere.
When does K9 show up? K9 had a pretty prominent role in this serial.
Well, he kind of showed up around episode 1 just for a little while. There was actually, forgot to mention, the kind of only important scene in this whole serial in episode 1 when the White Guardian goes, remember the Black Guardian, in the beginning, implying that maybe the Black Guardian will show up in this serial. But nope, that doesn't happen either.
Nope. But I know what does happen. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I know you do. That also brings up an interesting point that we also didn't mention, that the Doctor tells Romana that it wasn't the Time Lords that sent her on this mission, it was the White Guardian disguised as a Time Lord.
Right, which, I mean, were we supposed to know that? Because it sounded like you just contacted the Time Lords and had them in on it. To me, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but
no.
No. Apparently Romana was just stolen from Time Lord society, to put it bluntly.
Yeah, based on what I know about spoilers and stuff, that actually makes sense. That's all I'll say.
So, anyway, back to episode 2. So, Romana sees K9 and is like, hey, K9, is this actually the doctor? And K9's like, affirmative? So she's like, okay, I guess you're actually the doctor. So
we forgot to mention in episode 1, K9 erases all memory of tennis from his memory banks.
Romana says something like, forget it, K9. You know, like joking, forget it.
You're talking about tennis. And he's like, deleting all information on tennis.
Yeah, they set up so many cool things in episode 1 and then did none of them at all. So Romana and the doctor split up again. So Romana's looking for boots in the TARDIS, and the doctor is going to the hall again to go talk with DeVries about who even knows.
And K9 goes with him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, K9 goes with the doctor.
And they get there.
Show up there and they're dead.
Yeah, the stones attack.
Right. We also saw the Kaliak, or someone dressed as it. I mean, going into the serial, you're like, well, it's probably just an alien. That's what most of these things end up being.
And it was.
It was, but it wasn't like, you know, it was an alien pretending to be the Kaliak. It wasn't like the Kaliak was some sort of alien that they worshipped and they thought it was a god. So it was a little weird.
Yeah, so the doctor and K9 get there, and there was some fighting going on, and then K9 gets smashed.
Right, and the doctor, well, they find DeVries, or whatever his name was, and what's her name, killed.
His wife.
His wife.
Like
Martha.
Yeah, Martha.
They're dead. And then K9 gets smashed by the Ogre.
And K9's dead. He's gone. Just kidding.
No, he's actually just filled with paper shavings, so it's okay.
He's a piñata. Romana and
Amelia.
Rumford, Amelia, show up, and they're like, what happened to K9? And the doctor's like, well, he got smashed. I think we might have to kill him.
We're going to have to put him down.
For the second week in a row. You know, the more that I talk about it, the more I realize this serial kind of just stole plot points from the Pirate Planet.
Vaguely, I guess. I mean...
Well, the whole K9 almost dying, the Romana being better at the doctor, the time scanner scanning everywhere and beeping everywhere.
I guess. Those are pretty minimal plot points.
I suppose.
I mean, when you get into the actual part of the plot that it seems like the writer really wanted to write, it just goes farther downhill than it already has, so...
So they're, I don't know, doing whatever in the hall.
Yeah, I really don't know what they do next, because the rest of it seemed to go by.
Okay, so what I believe, if I remember correctly, Romana takes K9 back to the TARDIS to regenerate his circuits using,
something
I
like
don't even know. The doctor calls
fix him,
he calls Romana's plan genius, which I guess was a nice touch. They've come a long way since 2 serials ago when they hated each other for 2 minutes. So the doctor goes with Amelia off to Romana to the TARDIS to go get K9, but by that point Romana has actually left the TARDIS and been intercepted by Vivian Faye, who has zapped Romana into another dimension. And the doctor and Amelia show up. Vivian's like, excuse me, Romana will be okay if you just stay away, doctor.
Right. The doctor and Amelia actually find the paintings in the basement.
Yeah.
And it turns out they're all Vivian Faye. Oh, yeah. Voice crack there. Turns out they're all Vivian Faye. So, surprise.
Painted by different people.
Right. And the doctor's like, wait a minute. She must be the Kaliak.
Wow.
You see
Such a big reveal.
You see the Kaliak killing people at various points in the serial on the stones.
Yeah, he almost sacrifices the doctor in the first episode, but Amelia shows up and is like, what is all this fuss going on? What are you doing?
Yeah, so it's Vivian, and she's just kidnapped Romana.
That's how episode 2 ends. Then episode 3 pretty much sum up in one sentence as the doctor tries to build a device to get into hyperspace.
Right, because they somehow deduce that Vivian has taken Romana into hyperspace.
Yeah, and I spend this whole episode trying to explain what hyperspace is through the character of Amelia, and the doctor's like, okay, so what hyperspace is because you're not allowed to travel quicker than the speed of light, you can avoid the time distortion that comes with traveling at the speed of light by jumping into an alternate dimension known as hyperspace. And Amelia's like, oh, I get it. And the doctor's like, oh, good, maybe you can explain it to me someday.
Yeah.
So they're building some sort of device. K9's all better now. That plot point really only existed so Romana would get captured by Vivian Faye.
Then he runs out of battery later.
Yeah, but he can recharge himself now, making him even more overpowered than before.
Hey, he is version 2, fixing the flaws in version 1.
Was it really a flaw that he couldn't charge himself? From nothingness?
I mean, not a flaw, but this version's better.
But actually, how does he charge himself? What is he charging himself with?
Blood? No, I don't know.
He used Ogre technology to enhance himself.
Have you seen those videos of those like robotic dogs they were going to use in the military or whatever?
Yeah.
The uprising is soon. No, I don't know.
That could also be a reference to the Matrix.
Jeez.
Okay, so K9's like, the method is ingenious, and the doctor's like, yes, it is, I know. Now I just gotta build this thing. So they build it, and it kind of looks like the...
Yeah, it looks like from the what was it? The
Time Monster?
Time Monster, yeah. What was it called?
I don't know, the little time interferometer thing the doctor built out of like 2 spoons and a cup.
Yeah.
It doesn't look as bad as that, but it's in that vein. It looks like it was built out of whatever they had lying around the house. There's a couple of plates on there.
Yeah, they build that, and they find out there's a giant invisible spaceship over the Stonehenge. It's been sitting there for 4,000 years.
It's in hyperspace, and this is when it's revealed the key to time must be on that ship. Because it's been beeping everywhere around Stonehenge, and it turns out it was there, it was just in hyperspace.
I thought it was going to, like, be that ship, kind of like Pirate Planet, but no, it was just on the ship.
Then it would just be stealing more plot points from Pirate Planet. The entire planet Earth is the key to time.
Great.
They just write out planet Earth permanently.
Hey, I wish. No, I'm just kidding. Kind of. But,
So, they beam the doctor to hyperspace. Amelia is given very explicit instructions to turn on the little device every half an hour.
Right, because they need to generate some sort of shield to keep the ogre out.
Right.
K9 also helps with that.
Yeah, he makes the shield to keep the ogre out, and he can only sustain it for 17 minutes or something really random and obscure like that.
Yeah, so they beam the doctor up, and this is when things got all arc in space, because they had that creepy music playing, and they had the, he opens the door, and it looks like one of the bug things from Ark in Space.
Yeah, I was actually thinking when I was watching it that it felt like they just reused the set from the Ark in Space.
Yeah. No, I thought they were going to tie this into Ark in Space somehow, and that's why at the end of 3, I got super interested in this serial, and I was like, oh god, is this a sequel to Ark in Space? But no, it wasn't.
Hopes were dashed.
Because that would be cool. You know, it starts off as just some boring serial or whatever. You don't think it's going to be that good. And then it turns out it's actually related to a pretty good serial from a few seasons ago. But no,
really?
It's not.
Because what I thought after episode 1 we were going to get a pretty good serial. And then as the serial went on and they started discarding more and more of the plot points I thought they were going to go for, I just realized the serial was going to go nowhere near any of the expectations I had.
No, but it's not as bad in episode 3 as it gets. I mean, it's pretty bad, but it gets worse.
Okay,
it gets worse.
Let's explain how episode 3 ends. So the doctor gets to the ship, cuts Romana loose, and they kind of run around for a bit to like, what are we doing?
With the sonic screwdriver. So he's used it to open handcuffs now.
Yeah, open some locks or something. And they're like, okay, well, let's open this door. And they bust open the seal, and that was a mistake because these 2 beings come out and they're like, we're the Megara. We're justice machines.
That's how 3 ends.
It looks like...
They're really annoying characters.
Jeez, they look like they just... They filmed like a green screen, a blue screen that was just had some sparkling things in front of it and they just overlaid it over the footage.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
Cheap special effects.
They have the same name as the girl from Hercules, Megara.
Man, it would have been more interesting if she had shown up instead of these things.
On Megara. Yeah, no, these were... I don't know. Have you ever read that Dr. Seuss story about the one guy who only goes east and the other guy who only goes west, and they run into each other and they just stand still forever?
No, somehow.
They were as stubborn as those... I don't know. They reminded me of those characters with their stubbornness.
Huh.
So we should probably explain what they are. They're a justice machine. One's the judge and one's the jury. Fair, right?
And they're both the executioner.
Yeah.
The judge, jury, and executioner.
And they're AI, obviously.
The rogue AI. They're actually not rogue.
No, we're gonna record after this. That's, I guess, why we're...
Spoilers.
Spoilers for real life.
Okay, so now the Doctor and Romana are like, well, shoot, I'm on trial for breaking open the Great Seal, which is apparently a crime punishable by death.
And apparently the Great Seal is just their door that they were locked inside. I didn't really know.
How do they get out when they get to their destination if someone doesn't break the seal?
No idea. Didn't seem to be anyone else on the ship unless they all died because
They all died.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess that's how, but...
And episode 4 is Space Justice.
Yeah, it's like Judge Judy...
But worse.
In hyperspace.
At least Judge Judy has a personality. So the Doctor's cunning plan to delay his execution is to stage an appeal. We should actually mention, meanwhile, that Amelia, the little device, has been destroyed by the Ogre because K9 couldn't keep up the shield. And she comes back the next morning, he's like, oh, K9, are you okay? And he's like, affirmative.
His batteries get low. This is when he says he can charge himself, but...
With what? Still don't know. So they take the device back to Amelia's place. Amelia's like, oh, what are we going to do? They're trapped in hyperspace forever.
Yep.
And
guess I'll just travel around in the TARDIS with you, K9.
Amelia's the new Doctor. No, actually, K9's like, we can fix it. You will work under my supervision. So they do that. Meanwhile, on the ship, the Doctor calls Romana to the stand.
The Doctor puts on a little judge wig.
Just whips it out of his pocket.
But his hair is so gigantic that it looks like a little toupee.
His hair is even more bouffant than Pertwee's was.
So yeah,
not as great though.
No, he calls Romana to the stand to as a witness, obviously.
Right, Romana's like, we just broke the seal because we were concerned for you, and they're like,
Sure. No, they're actually super serious and not interesting at all.
They'd actually trialed the Doctor in his absence because he disappeared. He ran around the ship for a bit, and they're like, well, we'll just try him without him. That's when they decided to put him to death, and that's when the Doctor's like, no, I appeal.
And that's when they're like, what could a humanoid like you possibly do to prevent your own execution? He's like, well, a lot.
And for some reason, they let him.
I guess because there was nothing in the law saying that they couldn't, that wasn't permissible, so they pretty much had to.
That was basically everything in this episode, sorry.
Yeah, just the Doctor finding loopholes that he couldn't have possibly known about. And him just guessing and getting it right.
So Romana goes off and he calls Vivian Faye to the stand. Romana gets beamed back to Earth because Amelia's fixed the device. And this entire plot point only exists for Romana to go to Earth and just be out of the way for a while. Because everything she does on Earth is rendered moot by what the Doctor does on the ship in hyperspace.
Well, pretty soon Vivian Faye shows up on the ship.
Yeah, she shows up at the beginning of the trial.
Oh yeah, she shows up at the end of 3, actually. That was the cliffhanger, was her, and she's all chrome, and for some reason, it's been revealed that she's the Kaliak already. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Yeah, she just reveals that they're stuck in hyperspace forever because she destroyed the device. She controls the Ogre too, and the Megara destroyed one of them on the ship, and she's like, no!
And the Doctor, well, he wants to try and prove that she's an alien. And, well, the whole purpose of the Megara coming to Earth was they were planning on conducting a trial on some other planet, and they had to stop on Earth for whatever reason.
Right.
And the criminal was on the ship, and the doctor's like, well, it's so obvious that she's the criminal. What are you guys doing? And they're like, that's not evidence. That's just supposition. But
we actually forgot to mention the massively key plot point that the
truth beam.
No, it's about the Ogre, the fact that they are powered by blood.
Yeah.
Which is why they kill 2 random campers in episode 3.
Yeah.
And also why they were just sacrificing animals casually in Stonehenge.
Oh, right, they were sacrificing animals, not people, and they were like, let's sacrifice a human next time.
Yeah, they're going to sacrifice the doctor.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm not okay with this. Well, that one lady was like, I'm not okay with this, and you thought it was going to be a big plot point in the serial. There was going to be like a schism in the Druidic coven, but the coven doesn't actually show up again for the rest of the serial. So.
No, they don't. There's also, the Megara also have a truth beam that makes this annoying, high-pitched buzzing noise whenever it's on. Kind of like the scanner, but way worse.
I thought you were going to be like, kind of like this.
No, but they use that on Romana, actually.
And discover she's telling the truth, unsurprisingly. The truth beam only exists because the doctor tries to get Vivian Faye to admit that she's the prisoner, but...
she won't, obviously.
And the Megara, like, question not relevant to our trial, and the doctor's like, what do you mean it's not relevant? It's relevant to me.
And Vivian actually volunteers to use the beam. She's like, I have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
Beam me up, Megara.
But they still won't let the doctor ask about her being a prisoner. He can only ask about breaking the seal. So he does, and she's like, well, I don't know. They're like, okay, good enough. The doctor tries to delay some more by calling one of the Megara. I think they actually had names, but it doesn't really matter.
Did they have names?
Yeah, they did. They're like Bob and Dave or something.
They had...
No.
They weren't Bob and Dave.
I'm going to call them Bob and Dave.
Those were the actors who played them, I'm pretty sure. Bob and Dave. Which one's Bob?
It's Gerald and David.
Oh.
Okay, you know what? I'm calling the one that defends the doctor Gerald because I like that name better than David. Sorry, David. Alright, so the doctor calls Gerald to the stand. And David's like, we can't let that happen. And they do some high-pitched whining noises at each other. I guess computer speak.
Yeah, that's how they communicate, I guess.
And then Gerald's like, well, since we have to let you do this,
we're going to
do it. So the doctor asks them about their mission, and like, oh yeah, we're traveling.
This is when they reveal all the stuff we already explained.
4,000 years ago, trying to trial this lady for stealing.
She broke another seal. She broke a different seal, completely independent of their seal, on some other planet, and that was a crime apparently. So
she stole the Great Seal of Diplos, I think, and the Megara revealed that it had properties of matter manipulation, which is, I guess, when the doctor figures out that that's the key to timepiece.
Right. She also enslaved the Ogre. I almost said Ogrons.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking the whole seal, and the doctor mentioned the Ogre from the planet Ogros. But anyway, Romana comes back to the ship just in time to try and reveal that Vivian Faye is the prisoner, but it's too late because the doctor and her Vivian Faye, that is, get zapped, and the doctor convinces Gerald and David to scan Vivian's mind because it might be damaged, so they do, and then Gerald's like, wait, she's the lady we needed to put on trial. Well, the punishment was years of entrapment, apparently as a stone on Earth.
Well, see, I guess this is different. Their laws are different than ours because I know in the U.S. there's, I forget there's a specific term for it, but if you uncover evidence under circumstances that, like, I don't know how to explain it, but if you uncover evidence randomly under circumstances that have nothing to do with the trial, you can't use it.
Right.
There's a term for that, but I forgot what it's called.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
Well, Gerald and David mentioned that they're not allowed to scan people's minds even though they have the ability to do so, and that would probably resolve a lot of trials really quickly.
Yeah.
Unless they're given explicit permission by, like, their ruling body. but I don't think it exists anymore because the Doctor also mentions that they put the whole
body because they don't have bodies. I don't know.
I'm done. That they put the galaxy on trial and decided the galaxy was worthless and just wiped out the galaxy, which I guess actually makes Gerald and David creators of genocide, I guess.
Creators of genocide.
I forgot what the term was.
Genociders?
That's not a word.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Mass murderers? I don't know.
Sure, mass murderers.
Crazy.
Mass murderers.
Rogue AI, is that the term you're looking for?
Sure, whatever.
No, they were actually anything but rogue.
So they take Vivian Faye to Earth, and Vivian's like, if you let them do this, you'll never get what you want. And the Doctor's like, actually, to the contrary, I've already found it. And he just rips the Great Seal of Diplos off her neck, and he's like, I believe this belongs to me. And Gerald and David just let him have it instead of what I assume would have been their mission, to take it back to Diplos.
Nope. And then it turns out it's actually not the key to time, so they're stuck. No.
Oh, we got 2 pieces at the end of the serial. No,
they show up to the White Guardian at the end. Oh, we only got 2 of them. Is that enough?
Is that enough to fix the universe? White Guardian. No, really. I need all 6. I need the whole cube, you know. Wow, you're worse than I thought, Doctor.
But no, obviously it's the key to time. And then the serial ends.
Well, not after the Doctor sends Gerald and David back to their ship because he rigged their ship to leave.
Finally, they show up at wherever they were going. We're 4,000 years late, guys.
Yeah, the Doctor mentions that he's got a couple thousand years leeway now before they come back to execute him. I think it would be really funny if just now in the reboot, they just showed him, like, we're going to execute you, Doctor, and then they just do it, and that's how the Doctor regenerates. I think that'd be hilarious. And yeah, that's the end of the serial, and the Doctor kind of doesn't know how to put the puzzle together again, and he looks at Romana, and then it ends.
Yeah, actually, it ends. Amelia sees the TARDIS disappear, and
it says something about having a professional reputation to protect.
Something like that. She wasn't an interesting character, so I really didn't care.
So that's the end of this
god awful mess.
It's not as strong. That was a lot stronger language than I was going to use, but I don't know. Like I said, I thought they set up a lot of interesting points in the first episode, and they just didn't follow through with a lot of them.
This serial felt just really ADD, and that they didn't know. I couldn't tell what they were going for, and it seems like they didn't know what they were going for. I mean, you had the Kaliak and the Druids, and they kind of just discard that, and they have Hyperspace and the Megara, and
yeah, it's almost like every episode had its own antagonist, and none of them worked very well together.
No, they didn't.
Because there was the Druidic Coven, I guess, and then there was Vivian Faye, and then there was the Megara, also known as Gerald and David.
And, I mean, having the climax, the main conflict of the final part of the serial being a trial, like, come on, it's not that interesting.
I mean, it worked for the War Games.
Yeah, because that's when, that there was something else. It was
because they were
building the
because they
world,
actually followed through with the execution in the end, is what you're saying?
And because it was the Time Lords.
Oh,
and it wasn't just these random AI
that didn't have any connection to the Doctor?
No, that's what I meant. I mean, no as in yes. That's what I meant.
Right. Got it. But I think the serial, its one redeeming quality was that it built on the relationship between the Doctor and Romana in that they were way less antagonistic than they were even Lost serial. Maybe because they split them up a lot during this serial.
They didn't have a chance to get at each other's throats.
But the Romana.
It happens to every companion.
It does happen to every companion. Wow. Romana's pretty quick to forgive the Doctor after he explains that he wasn't the one that pushed her off that cliff. And I was thinking that, it's interesting that a key aspect of the Fourth Doctor's character development, whether Tom Baker wanted it or not, is that the Fourth Doctor seems to care a lot more about his companions than previous Doctors.
Than the Third Doctor.
Not more necessarily, but he seems to show it more. I mean, the Third Doctor cared, but he wasn't so obvious about it.
Yeah, of course.
Whereas the Fourth Doctor seems to be super obvious
Yeah.
and super concerned every time one of his companions does something that gets him into danger.
Yeah, I mean, just think about when Joe left. The doctor was like, "Well, goodbye, Joe. Guess this is it." And then he goes off and he's all sad, but he doesn't really show it. But no, I think Baker is, I guess, probably kind of like Troughton in that respect.
It almost feels like a reaction to the Third Doctor's era. When he regenerated, he became a lot more concerned about his companions, and I think that's something I'm probably going to talk about more about when he regenerates, because we still have at least one more companion, I think, to go through before he regenerates.
At least one.
But I don't know. I just think it's interesting how it feels looking back on the seasons that we've seen of the Fourth Doctor. It feels like he's more. He shows his emotions a lot more than the previous Doctor, and I just think that's interesting to make a note of, I guess.
Well, his companions are also a lot more interesting than, like Sarah or Joe. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Even though he did travel with Sarah for, like, most of her run.
Yeah, and I think just at this point, the Doctor's just been hit with a lot of companion departures, and he's been affected by that a lot, so that might also play into it.
Maybe. I don't know.
He's been traveling for 4 incarnations now and seen a lot of companion departures. I was going to try count all the companion departures, but I decided it wasn't worth it.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, the whole overarching plotline of this season is getting less interesting as the serials get worse.
Yeah, well, I knew it was going to be terrible as soon as it was set on Earth.
Hey, being set on Earth is not automatically a qualifier for the serial being terrible.
But this one was.
That's not evidence that every Earthbound serial sucks.
I don't care.
Well, I hope next week's is better, but that's not saying much because next week's is also written by David Fisher, so I'm not actually hoping for much.
Maybe the Megara will come back.
No, that would be
God,
awful.
I hope not.
I just hope that even if the next couple serials suck, that this season ends on something of a high note.
Well, you'll see.
Especially for the final 6-episode serial, besides that unaired one that we haven't decided if we're watching or not.
Yeah, you'll see. You'll see what happens.
I'm still hoping that the Black Guardian hired the Master as his agent, and they're going to fight it out. They're going to duke it out at the 6-episode serial. Anyway,
I won't say anything.
Yeah, so that's the end of the serial. Email us, thedoctorofdecadavevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your David Fisher thoughts, and or compliments, and or complaints.
Probably
all of
complaints.
those in one email. Check us out on YouTube at Trust Your Doctor. Leave a rating if you liked the show. Means a lot. Helps other people find us. Tell your friends about the show. And be sure to check out Triple Play. We just released an episode on The Matrix trilogy.
Also check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter, TYD Podcast. And follow us on Twitter. And next week we continue with the David Fisher duology with the androids of Tara. Until then, the end.